What's up, soccer fans? I am joined by Niall O'Regan from FA Ireland. You are head of coaching education. Thank you so much for taking the time to sit down with me here.
Thank you very much for the invitation. I'm looking forward to catching up.
Of course. So we are live in Philadelphia at the United Soccer Coaches Convention. And what I really want to know, Niall, is how did you get started in your role with FA Ireland?
Well, I'm lucky enough now to be working with the FA for 10 years since November. I came into the organisation working in a programme that we have, which is a very interesting programme where young people can come into training environments for a full year. They do education as well as that in terms of getting them academic credits so that they can go on to college and further education. So I worked in that programme for 2 or 3 years, and I've been in this role in coach education for the past 7 years.
Wow, that's awesome. And so what is your role like in terms of the philosophy? How do you portray that to the coaches throughout the education program?
So one of the things we did a number of years ago was we launched a player development plan in 2015, and one of the key components of that was synergizing coach development and player development.
Yeah.
Because a lot of member associations or countries actually do that as two individual things, which in reality they should be quite synergized, because anything the coach does is going to affect the players.
Yeah, absolutely.
So that was probably the biggest moment for us in terms of getting to where we are now. And over the last number of years, we started to see more and more of our players playing at the highest level. Today, you had a number of our players playing in the Premier League. And really, our philosophy, our ethos is, if we want to have better players, we need to have better coaches, which needs better coach education.
Definitely. And as it relates to the women's side of the game, that's really what we like to focus on in Our Cup of Tea. We are a number one show dedicated to women's soccer. So in your education programs, do you kind of separate men's and women's, or do you view it as one game?
Well, for us, we really don't want to make that decision for the coaches. So we provide both.
Okay.
So many of our coaching courses will have women that will be involved in them. Sadly, the numbers do sort of see it. If you had 24 people, you might only have 1 or 2 women. But a lot of the women that do that feel confident in that environment or feel more comfortable. So it's important that you don't just segregate and say, no, we're only going to do women's only courses. But on the other side of it, we also do have women's only courses. And one of the strategies we implemented in 2017 was we actually went out to over 500 women in Irish football and asked them the question, what was the barrier stopping them from doing coach education?
Yeah.
And we published an article in the International Sports Coaching Journal about this. And we also have a chapter in a book that just came out last year about the growth and development based on that survey. And in 2016, we only had 10 women with a UEFA license. Right now, we have 350.
Wow. 250, that's incredible.
Yeah, so it's really grown significantly, and it's only going to continue to grow. In February, we have a women's football conference, and we're going to have 90 women graduating with their UEFA qualifications from C license to B license all the way up to the Elite Judo license.
That's amazing. And kind of in your experience, how has the influence of more women coaching affected the level of play in women's soccer?
I think it's huge, because not only in women's football, but in football in itself. And I think it's so important that, yes, we have to acknowledge the fact that the women's game and the men's game is somewhat different in terms of certainly the people playing it, but a lot of similarities there. I myself built my career from working in the women's game. Some of the most influential people in my career were women in football. And I wouldn't be in the role that I am now without their support. So I think it's huge that having that sort of maternal, empathetic, that's the modern coach now. You know, you can't go into a dressing room. I remember when I played, you get water bottles thrown at you, boots thrown at you. You certainly can't do that in any game now. So the reality is, I guarantee in the next number of years, we're going to see a woman being the role model, working at the Premier League, working as an international coach in the men's game.
Yeah.
But to answer your question about having more women working in the women's game, has seen a huge growth in the development of the players. And you see that even with our own senior women's team, having role models, having women coaches working at the highest level, they can relate to the players more.
Yeah.
So it's really been a huge benefit in terms of us qualifying for the World Cup, growth and development of our coaches. And one of the key points that came out of the survey that we did was that there wasn't role models.
Yeah.
But now we have them.
Yeah. It's amazing. Thank you for all that you do in helping us grow in the women's game. In terms of the World Cups coming up this summer, what is your role doing to kind of help the female team prepare for that massive moment in history.
It's an absolutely huge moment in history. And I remember growing up when the men's team first qualified for the major finals, and it just revolutionized our sport. And I guarantee the exact same thing's going to happen to the women's game, because it's just going to be huge. And where it is, so many Irish people in Australia, it's just going to be home from home, and it's giving people the motivation to even go and visit Australia. It's just going to be out of this world. So the FAI have a very clear strategy in terms of creating a legacy program. So not just in terms of qualifying and it being that one historic moment, but the ripple effect in terms of coach education, coaching workshops, opportunities for us to build a brand, network. So there's probably a 12 to 18 month strategy that we're going to put into practice immediately after the World Cup to make sure that there is a long legacy from it.
Yeah, exactly. It's all about, we use these tournaments in women's games to really promote and to get the game to be accessible. And then it's got to be carried on. And every time there's a major tournament, whether it be Women's World Cup, the Euros, the Olympics, we always see a burst in the number of participating females in the game. So it's really amazing. And what are kind of some of the courses that you have coming out in 2023 this year for coaches?
Yeah, so in the next couple of weeks, we're going to be advertising some women's only courses in the grassroots game at our UEFA Leaders, which is a really good program because it starts to create communities of practice. So after the course is completed, once a month there's an online meeting to bring coaches that are working at similar levels all over the country together. So it's great for that in the women's game, because sometimes women can find themselves in a club and they're looked at upon being an administrator, or they're not seen as a coach. So having that support in the community of practice sort of gets them, it's a comfort zone, and somewhere they can go, have a cup of tea, have a chat online.
Our cup of tea, we do that right here.
And just have that conversation. And we're also going to have women's only courses at UEFA C and UEFA B license. So every year we have about 14,000 coaches come through our education program, and it's just really great to see the number of women. I remember when we first did our women's football conference 3 years ago, 85% of the people in the room were male, and we've increased the numbers significantly. So we haven't lost those males, but in our conference that we're going to have in February, 70% of the room will be women.
Wow.
So it's brilliant.
That's incredible. Well, thank you so much for all that you're doing with the women's game. Good luck this summer. I'm really excited to see everything that Ireland achieves, and it's going to be a great year for football in general.
Yeah, thank you. Keep up the good work.
Thank you so much. Thanks everybody for joining us here on Our Cup of Tea, and we'll be back soon with some more content for you. Thanks, guys.
Is that okay?